it's kind of really interesting to consider that we have the power to completely eradicate the HIV and AIDS virus if we just like get together and like do what we feel we need to do as a community. If we all agree on the same thing we need to do. I'm a huge proponent. I absolutely support the use of PrEP. Proponent is a hard word to say. I'm a huge proponent for PrEP, for the pre-exposure prophylaxis. I mean, talk about a revolutionary drug that is literally changing the game. And I think that in the beginning there was like a stigma around using PrEP, and I think that's kind of faded away for the most part. People are kind of like, actually, it makes sense, and it does make sense. And the truth is, everyone knows what to do. Not everyone. Most people know what to do. They're just not doing it. Like, I don't understand how you could make it this far in life and not have learned what to do to protect yourself. But I think that, a lot of times, this is not my thinking, this is statistics, most people who pass on HIV don't even know they have it, And also the stigma around it, like, or just the facts. People just don't know facts, like, just don't know facts. Like, if you're serosorting as a way to find out who has HIV, like, are you serious? Do you have AIDS? No? Let's fuck. Throw that condom away. You said you don't have it, so why would you have it? Why would you lie to me? Could you imagine if people were more open? Do you have AIDS? I mean, as far as I know, I don't. Well, then, let's risk it. Well, let's see. I mean, one, you need to decide if you are committed to ending the virus, because, maybe it's not important to you. I mean, if you've never been impacted by it, it's 2017. People are being less and less impacted. I mean, nowadays you hear your friends say, oh my God, I converted, I have HIV. And then you go, oh my God. And then you talk for a solid 30 minutes. And then you're watching Golden Girls on Hulu in 10 minutes. Whereas in the 90s, you hear, I converted, and then you're like, what are we going to do with your stuff when you die? I mean, who's the last person you knew that died of HIV or AIDS? Like, can anyone in this room name anyone who's died in the new millennium of HIV or AIDS complications? It's not a thing anymore. So, no one freaks out when you say, guys, I don't want to scare everyone, but I have diabetes. Everyone's like, you'll be fine. You're going to make it. You know what I mean? So when it doesn't seem as urgent, then people just don't care as much. So maybe if we all decided, hey, this is urgent, and then we all decided, and honestly, the real thing is, like, the real kicker is that, as we all know, HIV is not a death sentence. So I think that that sentiment has created some other death sentences. There was a huge thing in New York City where there was a strand of hepatitis C that was killing people in like a month. Like, in a month, you'd be dead as a doorknob from hepatitis C. And, people are like, well, I'm on PrEP. I'm like, yeah, well, PrEP literally only protects against one thing. You know what I mean? Or like, just like going into, a fight being like, well, I'm wearing my bulletproof vest. And I'm like, well, what if you get shot in the head or the foot or the knee or the elbow? What are you going to do then? You literally only protected from one thing, Like, if someone goes, if only there were a magic wrapper you could use to somehow stop the spread of STDs. And someone over like, oh my God, yeah, there has been for decades. Like, for decades, there's been a way. Like, no, not that. I mean, like, like something that won't ruin my boner. I'm not a sex educator. Well, I mean, I can tell you what I do. I wear a condom when I have sex. And 100% of the time, no. I'm not a saint. I'm not perfect. But, pretty much almost every goddamn time I have sex, I would say up 99.9% of the time, I am going to, I mean, it sounds so old school and like archaic, but like, it is the most effective way to stop the proliferation of STIs is through, well, the most is abstinence, but I'm not doing that. I'm not remotely interested in that. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I think about being black all the time. I would say upwards of every day. I don't believe this is real, is real. I don't believe this is real, is real. I mean, just look at the numbers. Like, people of color are just get the shit into the stick. Especially Latinos and blacks in terms of health in the world. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy, actually. Like an astounding, a staggering statistical difference between, you know, blacks and Latinos and white people. You know, when you don't consider yourself a part of the gay community, then you probably miss out on a lot of what we have to offer in terms of education. And with queers, there's education everywhere. At the bars, during a show, any show you go see, there's always queer education. And if you're not receiving that, if you don't hear, go get tested every 10 seconds, then maybe you won't go get tested ever. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of shame in the black community around being gay and the whole DL culture. And I actually do think it is because of how religious the black community is, to be honest with you. And my family is religious. They just don't care that I'm an internationally known flamboyant drag queen. Internationally known. Remember that. Keep that in mind. I think my family is the exception. I really do. Especially for a religious family. My family is religious, and they would kill me if I did not mention that they're religious 5 times. They are religious. They believe in the Lord Jesus. I'm not religious, but they are. I was raised religious, but I think this at some point in my life I was like, nah, this doesn't make any sense. Don't put that in there. My mom will kill me. I'll put it in there. Who cares? I don't give a fuck. She knows I'm not religious, but when I go, this doesn't make sense, she's like, don't say that. And I'm like, well, I mean, it doesn't make sense. What? Have you guys read the Bible? It's a wacky book. It is a very good book, though. It's just that this one's the current reigning God, so to speak. It's like Jesus won Miss Universe, and he's like the current reigning. But I mean, at one point I was actually the religious one. Like, my family didn't go to church. I went to church by myself every single Wednesday and every single Sunday. Bible study on Wednesdays and, church on Sundays. And for me at the time, it was actually really lovely. It was a way to make friends, and it was a way to learn discipline, and it was actually really remarkable. I actually loved going to church when I was younger. I loved it. Going to hell? No, of course it scared me. I was like, I'm going to hell. Like, I'm either going to go to hell or I'm going to be miserable the whole time I'm on earth. I'm like, well, I'm only on earth for upwards of 89 years, or statistically speaking, as a black man from the South, upwards of 65 years. But I don't want to be in hell for all eternity, so I think I'll just, rough it out here.
What do you mean out here?
Well, I'll just not come out of the closet, and I just won't do anything gay. If we can't embrace the corners of our society, then I don't know how we expect the world to embrace any parts of it. Honestly, that's the real truth.
So we're kind of talking about, do you find that?
Just kidding. Oh, I'm totally interested in people's sex lives. I want to know everything about everyone's sex lives, but I don't want to judge you off of it. I don't want to mold your professional image based off of it. Unless your profession is actually based on sex, then I guess I should be basing your professional image off of that. The only role that shame should play in sex is if that's your kink. You know what I mean? If you get your rocks off, getting your nut stepped on, and having people tell you have a baby dick, then you shouldn't be ashamed of that. You should be able to live in that truth. If you don't live in that truth, and you'll probably just always be ashamed of that. There was a guy on Grindr back at home. It was him just staying on a bed, and it was like fisting bottom. He goes, the fisting isn't optional. And it has his face, which I just love. And he's like, I want hands up my butt. And I am not ashamed of that. Put your hand up my butt. And I'm like, good for you, girl. Good for you. Sex is sex. Like, I don't even know how to put it more simple than that. Sex is sex. It's just sex. I mean, everyone does it. Not everyone, that's not true. But most of us do it. And most of us are here because of it. And it's just fucking sex. I think as a general rule, the idea of people having sex is pretty well accepted in America. It's like we don't live in a sexless society, but there is also like a certain amount of like, you know, you can't be taken. You can have sex and you can be super duper sexual, but once you cross that line, you are no longer a serious person. I think in the gay community, it manifests itself as bottom shaming, as femme shaming. I think it manifests itself in the real world as overt chauvinism. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, the idea of people not wanting to identify as a... Oh, no. God damn it. Whatever. You know, bottom shaming is, in essence, it's like you don't want to be perceived as feminine, so you don't want to be perceived as a bottom. You don't want anyone to think you're the girl in the relationship because being a bottom would insinuate that. And there are, you know, bottoms out there. There is a tiny little revolution of like, you know, like bottom power. Or like you ever called to someone who's like a strict dumb top of like I'm not a bottom, and it's like who cares? Like no one gives. Like you're not fierce because you do the other thing in bed. You know what I mean? All you did was the other thing. You didn't create anything. You just did the other fucking thing. Like chill. Like I cannot believe it is 2017 and people still have straight acting on their bio on Grindr. I'm like, ugh, I can't believe it. But then again, they look at me shaming them for what they want to do. You know, people who are like, who for some reason think that at the gay pride parade you can't march for equality and do it in a thong. But the truth is, you can. Because people in thongs deserve rights too. Just like people in business suits. To quote the musical Kinky Boots, I mean, you change the world when you change your mind. You know? Which is another variation of be the change you want to see in the world. I mean, I'm not going to eat lasagna after I do my face, but you know.
It's really sad to know that you're not going to eat lasagna.
Would that make you happy if I ate lasagna, baby? You want to see me eat lasagna today?
What's a 5, 6, 7, 8? What's a charade? Where's the meow?